Mr Chairman.
I call the Honourable Minister Paula Bennett.
Mr Chairman, sorry for my delay. I was expecting a call from the opposition on vote social development, since it does actually spend $22 billion in this round, affecting about 1.6 million New Zealanders, 960,000 at any one time, either on super or on benefits. And I, quite wrongly obviously, but thought that maybe it would be a priority for the opposition to actually stand up and speak about vote social development and how $22 billion worth of taxpayers' money is spent. Mr Speaker, Mr Chairman, just to give you a bit of an idea, we have like 300 sites around New Zealand within Child, Youth and Family, Work and Income and Community Link and other offices like that. As I said, about 981,000 clients at any one time. Of that, about 580,000 are superannuants. It takes about 13.3 million phone calls a year, does the Ministry of Social Development, and that's 255,000 a week. 2 million applications for assistance in a year, and about 140,000 student allowance and other applications around that as well. And as you know, Child, Youth and Family receiving about 125,000 notifications in a year, about 12,000 a month. So pretty massive, and I don't know, but I would have thought that was a priority and that maybe the opposition would think about standing up and taking a call. We saw unemployment, I think, peak last January 2010 at about just over 63,000 people on the unemployment benefit. Now we're at around 57,000. For the month of June, we saw nearly 800 people net come off, which was pretty exciting. The first month of June in more than 4 years where we had actually seen a drop in unemployment benefit, which was pretty exciting. Last month we saw it go up again slightly, but nowhere near what you would normally see. Not so exciting. But as I say, the increase wasn't near what you'd see in normal seasonal employment. And in fact, we can't recall a time when a July has actually not actually gone up slightly, even in the, if you like, the best of times that was squandered in that sort of 2005, 6 and 7 when nothing was done. So that sort of seasonal employment, we're already starting to see it bounce around again, so it has started going down. We had a week where it went down again most recently. So it just says to us that these are really interesting times as far as employment, people taking people on. What I loved about June is that out of the around 784 that came off, 91% of them were young people. 91% were young, and I reckon that's pretty amazing. We still have, we've heard a lot about the future focus changes that the government made over the last couple of days. We're obviously quite thrilled with some of the results in that. I will say the results around the unemployment benefit have been better than what I expected. I was certainly told by others that I didn't need to do a reapplication process, that the work test is such that we wouldn't need to do it, but what it did prove to us is that when people come to signing a form, they might at times think differently about how they actually reapply for a benefit and what they do. Before we did the future focus, 75% of those on any benefit in the system were not work tested, so there were no work obligations. They weren't expected to be getting work ready. They didn't have to have a CV. After the future focus, we still have, unfortunately, 63% of people that go on to a benefit. So we currently have about 327,000 people on main benefits in New Zealand, and for 63% of them, Mr Chairman, no expectations whatsoever. In fact, in most cases, we put them on a benefit and we leave them to sit there with no intervention, with no support, with no help, with no looking at how we actually might support them to get off. And I actually think it's a tragedy of our system. It was something that was identified by the Welfare Working Group. I think it's pretty appalling that we see people sitting there for year after year after year. I'm not particularly proud of the fact that we have intergenerational welfare dependence, that you meet children who have never known an adult to work in their house and they think that is the norm. So I must admit that I'm pretty focused on how we can do better by them, how we can look at the support that we give people that need it the most, how we can perhaps front load some of that support, how we can look at what people can do instead of what is a pretty appalling focus now, which is only centred on what they can't. Your eligibility into the system is based on what you can't do, and I want to focus it onto what they can.
The question is that vote social development stand part of the schedule. Those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote youth development stand part of the schedule. Those of that opinion will please say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote fisheries stand part of the schedule. Those of that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote housing stand part of the schedule. I call the honourable member to Uraroa Flavel. Tēnā koe, Mr Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr Chair. Tēnā koe te minute whakakiki te tūru o te minita i tēnei pō.